Okay, so here's the shaila. Do you know how many mitzvahs there are in this week's parsha? A lot. That much I can say for sure. This week's parsha, I think, has the most mitzvahs of any parsha in the Torah. If you look at it, you can probably find a Masechta of Shas that's on each, like there's segment of one or two psukim here, full Masechta, another two here, Makos, you name it. They've got, the expounding in the Talmud comes from this week's parsha. So it's very chock-a-block, as they say, full of goodness, a meaty parsha. So we're not going to cover the whole thing, but we'll try and tease something out of the parsha and see if there's some good lumdus to go into the zman of tshuva, some ideas to take with it. So it starts off like you said, so beautifully named, Teitzei melchama. But the parsha is about when you go out to war, right? And what's interesting maybe is that you could have named the parsha a lot of other things. Could have named it halachos, could have named it milchama, could have named it a lot of different things. But the parsha starts off with Teitzei. And I think it's no accident that it chooses this language, this idea of stepping out. You're going out into perhaps the unknown. You're going out into a place where maybe you're less assured. And you're going to face challenges out there, out in the big wild beyond. So the parsha gives us a whole bunch of guidance on how to handle this. It's a parsha full of more mundane daily life mitzvot, guidance on how to live in a daily life, but there's also some random things that are kind of peppered in there. And the first one maybe is random, maybe it's the most common thing that a person can think of, is Eshet Yifat Toar. The first command of this when you go out to war is you are going to see a beautiful woman. You're going to want to take her as a wife. And perhaps this is the most foundational understanding of the Torah of us as human beings. You're going to have desires when you go out into the world, and the Torah gives us some kind of a guidance on how to deal with those desires. You're going to go out, you're going to feel like a man, you conquered. I want to bring back this beautiful woman as my wife. The Torah says, you can make her your wife, but wait first. Invite her into your home, have her shave her head, have her grow out her nails. She's going to look disheveled. She's going to mourn for her parents, whether her parents are alive. She mourns that she's not with them. They're dead. She mourns that they're not alive. But she spends this month in your house. You watch her mourn, and then at the end you can decide if she still is this Eshet Yifat Toar that you want, this woman that you want to take into to be your wife. And what's interesting is, you think about this. First, it acknowledges that we're human. It acknowledges that the sort of core desire of a human is, in a way, we have desire, we have lust, we have this guide in our life. But the parsha, when it brings this down, Rashi and I think the Sifri also, they bring this down as an idea that says that it's not talking just to you as a person, it's talking to your Yetzer Hara, to this understanding that you have this. And they say that this first mitzvah, the parsha of how you handle the Eshet Yifat Toar, becomes the narrative of the next two mitzvot. The next mitzvah of giving an inheritance to if you have two wives, one that you love and one that you hate. If the first one, your firstborn comes from the hated wife, you still give the firstborn portion to that hated wife. It's very interesting. You think about this. I took a beautiful woman, brought her into your house. You go through this period. Now, immediately after that, we talk about the challenge of do I give my inheritance to my hated wife? The Rashi brings down that the narrative of this woman that you brought into your house is eventually going to become the hated wife, then eventually becomes the third mitzvah in the parsha, which is Ben Sorer Moreh, the wayward or rebellious son. So this idea of this narrative that we have challenges, we have desires in our life is going to be sort of a foundational idea here. What happens in that third mitzvah? Ben Sorer Moreh is a son who is entirely giving in to his desires. He becomes a full glutton. A glutton and a drunkard is what the translation brings down. But what's interesting about this is Gemara is a machlokas in the Gemara, I think it's Sanhedrin, about whether or not this kind of a son would ever happen. The laws that are brought down around how specific it is to actually qualify this person as a Ben Soramar are so specific. He has to be this age range. He has to have taken this kind of food. He has to have stolen the money to get the food. He has to have been told off by his parents so many times. There's like a whole, so many rules that are sort of brought down in order for us to explain this who this character could possibly be. And I don't have an answer for this, but it's something very challenging to think of what it is for us to look at a commandment of the Torah that is written for us that in a way doesn't happen. Like you think about this as the idea of, well, how many things, it's almost if the first mitzvah of the Torah, the Eshet Yifas Toar, is the idea of us recognizing this is in our nature, but it's recognizing we put up some boundaries around it. It's also recognizing that that is not the preferred behavior. Like Rashi said, we're going to see this decline. You're going to take this woman, then she's going to be your hated wife, then you're going to end up in the situation with this son. It's not the right thing to do, but the Torah gives us guardrails. You're going to take her, you're going to do this 30-day process, then you'll decide. Breathe for a second, and then you'll decide. I think, in a way, maybe the Torah is giving us a different kind of guidance by giving us the Ben Soramor of that's what bad actually looks like. And you can separate yourself even a small amount from that. You have room for tshuva. This is a path that, especially in going into the Rosh Hashanah, sometimes we walk in with extra weight, more challenges than maybe what we need to. And I think the recognition that this never happened gives us guidance that we have room for tshuva. This kid would have been stoned and killed. And, I think it also raises maybe an interesting challenge here. If you think about what is the requirement for a Ben Soramor to exist? His parents have to have given him chinuch, but he doesn't listen. And then at the end, in order for the actual decision of Beis Din to happen, they come to Beis Din and they say, our son doesn't listen. He keeps doing all the wrong things. There's a very strong recognition of the relationship between parent and child in this mitzvah. And what's interesting is maybe the next mitzvah that just to draw our attention to in this week's Parsha is Shiloh Haken. And we all look at this mitzvah as sort of a random kind of an idea. I mean, the parallels between parent and child are numerous. The Shiloh Haken is literally when you happen upon a nest and you see there the mother is sitting on the young, whether it's eggs or like small babies. We recognize in this moment this relationship of parent and child that we see right in front of us. We have the sensitivity that we have to do to send away the mother because we see this parent relationship. Even the reward for this mitzvah is the same reward as Kibud Avim. When you do Shiloh Haken, you're going to receive a long life. This is the same thing that we say when you do Kibud Avim, you're going to receive a long life. So it's kind of seems like this otherwise odd commandment to send away a bird, be sensitive to this, has a direct relationship to this beginning of the parsha that we had before, with we talk about how we arrive at this relationship of parent and child. And I think there's some very interesting things maybe to think about when we talk about the idea of Shiloh Haken. The Ramban says that this is an idea that you should learn to be, it's a commandment on the person, that the person should learn to have a sensitive heart, shouldn't be cruel. To consider this poor bird, this parent, this has offspring. The Rambam says the opposite. He says that if you have a requirement on the animal, that you shouldn't cause extinctions for animals. So you have here 2 generations of an animal. If you were to wipe out both the parent and the child now, you're wiping out that entire lineage. So you're not allowed to do that. And in a way, this section here, maybe just to tie the two together, I don't remember where this Gemara is, but there's a story that where you bring together both of the stories of Arichas Yamim. There's a father and a son. They're out in the woods. They happen upon a nest and they see it, and the father sends up his son to go and shoo away the mother bird and then take the offspring, and the son falls and dies. So the Gemara asks, Acher, apparently this is what sent him off. This is one of the things that sent him off. He also had, understanding of Meiser Merkava and other different things, but this is one of the things that sent him off. He said he saw this thing happen and he couldn't reconcile how the reward for listening to your parents and going to shoo away the mother bird, this child got neither of them right away. So it's obvious that the reward here could mean the Olam Haba. You get eternal reward in the eternal world instead of in this world. But maybe there's some other ways also to understand what Shiluach HaKen is, and maybe a little bit more of a Kabbalistic way. So I think the Ari brings down that the sending away of the mother bird is something that actually sends the mother bird higher. And when you send a mother bird higher, what you're actually doing is creating a channel of Bina between Hashem and us on earth. So this is a way for us to, through doing this act, we created a different connection with Hashem. Something to think about. Another idea is that when you send away the mother bird, you create space. This is also a Kabbalistic concept of tzimtzum, that we create room for us to grow into. And what are we left with when we send away the mother bird? We take the fledglings, we take the eggs. So in a way, there's perhaps an idea that we're adopting for ourselves the position of growth, the position of having room to grow. We are now fledgling. We take that identity with us. We send away this idea that we have already Bina. We have all this understanding that we need to. So maybe that is a way for us to adopt a mindset from Shiluach HaKen. And I think maybe one more thing about this is that you think about what it means to have a full life, or an idea of like long days, let's call it. It's also when you have the ability to recognize things. And this, when you talk about what Shiluach HaKen is, it says, Ki yikre, when you happen upon, you're going to see a nest, and you're going to have to recognize in this moment to be sensitive and to be recognizing that there's something, it's a bird that nobody owns, but it is kosher, so it's a very specific kind of happenstance that you're finding, and you're seeing this bird, and now you have to take on this whole awareness that we don't, extinct an entire generation. We have to be really sensitive, and maybe it's that sensitivity that actually makes your day fuller. So maybe it's a simpler way of understanding what Arichas Yamim is. Maybe it's a similar thing when you talk about honoring your parents, that you also have that, sort of a calmer home and more sensitivity to their requests. But I think maybe to end off the last part of the parsha, ki kre, what happens upon you, we have right at the end of the parsha, the absolute last thing is the story of Amalek. And the story of Amalek is Asher karcha baderech, they happened upon you. And maybe this is to give us, we've talked about a model behavior at the beginning and model anti-behavior with Ben Soramora. Maybe this is also model anti-behavior with Amalek. Because what is the story of Amalek? It says that they happened upon you and they went after the people in the back and the weak ones, and they chased after, they went after you in a very sort of undermining and nefarious way. They did the opposite of sensitivity. And again, I can't remember who says it, but it always almost was a description of Amalek as like kind of the comparison of a ganav and a gazlan. A gazlan, at least we say, he stole in public. He has no fear of man or of God. So fine, he only has to pay double. A ganav, because he was sneaky and he tried to, pretend like he has no fear of God, but he has a fear of man. He didn't want to get caught. He's responsible to pay kefil and dalit and hay and different kinds of payments. It's worse for him. So we say the same thing about Amalek, that because they went after man, they did not exhibit any fear of God, but they were afraid to go after Bnei Yisrael in this time head on. They went at them from the side. They went after the weak. They went after the stragglers. And that, again, maybe is this idea of when you go out, Teitzei, you're going to go out into the world. You're going to see things that happen around you. And you have a responsibility to develop a sensitivity, to develop this awareness, to fear God more than you fear man, and to use that maybe as the path into tshuva, that we have room to improve, but we have a path to improve it. So,
Yeah.
Azoi.
Azoi.